Day for us. We're very excited about telling you what we've been working on for the last, about the last year in anticipation of this launch. My name is John Stratton, Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of Verizon Wireless. And to my right, you'll see several of our distinguished colleagues from our important partner companies. And first, Sanjay Jha, who is the co-CEO of Motorola, in charge of the mobile devices and home business for the company. Andy Rubin is here from Google. He's the Vice President of Engineering and heads the Android effort for the company. And then to the far right, Shantanu Narayan, who is the President and CEO of Adobe Systems. As you'll hear over the course of the next several minutes, each of these men and their businesses have been incredibly important to the development of this product that we're here to announce today. But before we get started, I'd like to just take a minute to think back to, I guess, about eight and a half months ago, when we were together here in New York to announce our very first Android device, which was the original Motorola Droid. You may recall that just prior to our doing that announcement, we did another announcement, which was to describe a strategic partnership that we had created among two, perhaps at the time, seen as unlikely partners, Verizon and Google. And we talked at that time about the importance of our respective initiatives to drive innovation in the mobile space. And the question that we had for each other was, what might we be able to do if we pooled our resources, if we coordinated our activities? How might we accelerate massively the introduction of innovation in the mobile space? And I think what you've seen with our first Droid launch and what you're about to hear about here later in the program is, I think, a great reflection of that close partnership. And we recognize that that partnership would not be possible without the support and assistance from everyone at Google. But most importantly, the head of our partner at Google is Eric Schmidt, who, if you have not had a chance to see yet, you're about to. Eric has joined us as sort of a surprise guest. Eric, if you can come up. This is where there's a thunderous round of applause, typically.
So, I'm sorry, I was busy watching YouTube on our new device.
Perfect.
Why is everybody so obsessed with mobile? Why is everybody so obsessed in our society, in IT, in the media, and so forth? It's because it's a new and emergent technology. It's a new way of computing that we really have never seen before. You have essentially a personal supercomputer that knows everything about you. Think of it as a mobile-first strategy. You're on it from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. And behind it are massively parallel supercomputers that do computation. There are many, many applications where this is appropriate. In our case, we do, for example, voice translation. We do all sorts of things because the computer, as fast as it is assisted by all the supercomputers behind it. To make that system happen, you've got to have an entire ecosystem. Let's talk about the network. You need an incredibly fast and scalable network, which costs God knows how many billions that you guys spent to do this. We're getting the benefits of this. You need a very large screen and a very powerful processor in a device that's reasonably cost-effective and appropriate weight with a good battery life. We've got that today. And again, this is our second iteration, and it works. You've got to have a software platform that scales. And that software platform has to be a real operating system, one with parallelism, and all sorts of extremely sophisticated APIs that allow you to actually build these powerful applications. This is not a toy. This is not just an app engine. What this is it's a very, very powerful new kind of an operating system. And most importantly, you need applications and services, especially in the multimedia area. Again, we have one of our key partners who literally invented that category. So what I like about what we're going to talk about today, and what I want everyone to spend the time, is it's not one product, although we're announcing an incredibly important one. It's not one network. It's not one application. It's the sum of it all. What's happening now is that people are thinking mobile first. What they're doing is, instead of thinking desktop, they think the most powerful applications, the most powerful end-user services, the most powerful enterprise services are now being delivered on mobile devices that can deliver them to extremely happy end users. So thank you guys. I'm going to let you guys have your press conference, and congratulations to all of you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, so thank you, Eric. We'll move into the main event now and tell you a little bit about what you've come to hear. And you're going to hear about the device itself, the hardware and software specifications, the evolution of the operating system, and some incredibly interesting things that we're doing with Adobe the next few minutes from each of the gentlemen I mentioned a moment ago. But before we turn over, I'd like to just give you some other feel for, a little bit of a taste of some of the applications and services that we'll be bringing on the Droid X. Some things that are first time for Verizon and are especially appropriate given the capabilities, the form factor of the Droid X. So if you haven't seen the device, this is it here. It is pretty spectacular. 4.3-inch screen, full HD video capture and playback, and many other capabilities that you'll hear more about from Sanjay in particular in the next few minutes. But you know, when you have a screen and a form factor like this, very, very thin, very lightweight, it certainly screams video. And so we've taken some special time to bring more video content and video applications to the device. We've done a deal with Blockbuster, for example, and we'll have an app embedded on the device from which customers will be able to download videos, feature films, many, many thousands of videos, television programming and feature films. They'll be able to rent films and view them here, or they'll be able to buy films and then consume them on any number of screens. So you'll hear more about that, and some information will be in your press kit to that end. We've also enabled other Verizon services. So this is an evolution from the original Droid, but among those is VCast Video, which is our video-on-demand service. And underneath the VCast Video, you'll find several interesting applications, most notably some great sports content. So if you had the chance earlier today, and you had a Verizon Droid with the VCast application, you would have been watching the World Cup and watching the U.S. beat Algeria earlier today. You would have had a chance to see college football games. You'll see also the NFL mobile application. Many of you may be aware that we've partnered with the NFL to bring live streaming content to devices, which will be prominently featured on the Droid X. So one of the most notable applications is called Red Zone. You may be familiar with this application as it lives on TV. We think it's particularly powerful in a mobile environment. And specifically, what Red Zone will allow you to do is, if you have favorite teams, you'll be able to program them in, and then as those games progress, as your team, or unfortunately the team your team is playing, gets inside the red zone, inside the 20-yard line, it'll send an alert to your phone, and you'll be able to then watch live action of your game to the completion of that play, and then continue on from there. There'll be streaming of full games, Thursday night games, Sunday night games, and others during the course of the season. You'll hear more about as we get closer to the season. Skype Mobile has been enabled, deeply integrated on the product. We think this is a terrific value proposition, allowing our customers to seamlessly connect with up to almost 600 million users around the world. We think this is, again, particularly well suited to this device. So a lot of excitement here, and of course none of this would be possible or as pleasant an experience if it weren't tied to America's largest, most reliable 3G network, which of course is what Verizon is all about. So that's a little bit of a taste of the Droid X, and I'd like to now ask Sanjay to tell you a little bit more about it.
Well, thank you, John. I think the evolution of Droid to this new level, the Droid X, is pretty exciting for both Verizon, ourselves, Google, and Shantanu at Adobe. We're going to deliver, I think, an unparalleled smartphone experience. This is, of course, our 11th smartphone. We launched our first smartphone about 8.5, 9 months ago. And every time I launch a smartphone, I get more and more excited about what is possible in the smartphone in terms of the computing power, in terms of the application, the form factor, the battery life. And really, it's becoming the digital mainstream device for consumers. As Eric was saying, this is the device which is with you at all times, and this is the device that you rely on. You go back to your home to pick up this device. And then there's this convergence that's happening in technology that's making this device much more personal, much more connected, and much more mobile. So if you think about it, while smartphone segment is really pretty much in the early days of its evolution, if you go back and think about how desktop evolved there were people who jumped into lead, and then it evolved into a much more horizontal model where people focused on each of the segments separately. If you look at the evolution of smartphones, I think we're in the early days. But really, even then, 22% of total available market of all mobile devices is smartphone already. And by 2011, next year, 50% of devices will be smartphones. So about 80% of all the handset profitability will be in this segment. So smartphone is going to be the converged computing platform which fits in your pocket, and it's going to be very important for all of us. What's driving this rapid growth really is a convergence. Convergence between internet, mobility, computing, and media. I think all of these things are coming together to deliver the experience that I think four of us are delivering in this device. And I think, in my view, this is the largest opportunity in technology today. And we are very excited to be participating in that. If you think about the internet, more people now access the internet using their mobile devices than they access using, say, PC. 91% of homes now have wireless, and 23% of them don't have any landline at all. And I think if you look at computing power in these devices, only 4 or 6 years ago, the power that was in laptop is now in these devices. And all of this has been driven through the migration in semiconductor to 28 nanometer, which I anticipate will be around by the end of this year. Media is going mobile as well. You saw Eric playing with his YouTube. First of all, we have a network which delivers YouTube to your device, and secondly, we have the capability to play that YouTube and for people to access that. 15% of all smartphone users actually access their content on smartphones. So this category is becoming important. So we are very focused on this segment. Let me run for you a video which highlights some of the capabilities of this device. So why don't we run the video here of this the Droid X smartphone. 1GB card that gives you 24GB out of the gate, but you can expand that to all the way to 40GB of memory in this device. So in terms of memory, first of all, it's expandable. It's not fixed. I don't decide. We deliver a very large number to you, and you can expand that. So the capacity is very good. Multimedia, I think, is second to none. I think if you look at some of the other features, could someone give me the ticker? If I look at the display, this is 4.3-inch display. This is a wide VGA 4.3-inch display. 854 pixels by 280 pixels. If you ask consumers, as we have, they virtually always choose a larger display to a higher resolution display. You have much larger touch target. You can web browse much better. Your multimedia looks much more vibrant, and this display really is quite an amazing display, and probably the centerpiece of this device and the differentiation that it offers. Let's go back and think about the messaging. We have multi-touch keyboard, and that's really important. This is truly multi-touch, so you can actually put a finger on shift and hit buttons, and the shift functions as it would in a normal keyboard. This is truly multi-touch functions. You can touch multiple keys at the same time, and it recognizes what you're trying to do. We have also preloaded swipe, which if you've not used it, it is really a big change in the way touch keyboards work. It comes preloaded with swipe, and I personally am pretty excited about what swipe can do for us. From a mobility point of view, Wi-Fi hotspot. This really enables, and John will talk about how he wants to enable that with different pricing schemes, but connect up to 5 devices, Wi-Fi devices, including PCs. And this device, using Verizon's network, will have the capability to deliver broadband access to multiple devices or multiple groups of people at the same time. Quite excited about that. It, of course, has GPS, it has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi integrated in it. Call quality. There are 3 things here. One is the Verizon's network. Second thing really is diversity antennas. We have paid attention to this because we recognize that people still use phones for phones. The reason they carry their device with them, is because they like actually receiving and making calls and having conversations where both people understand each other. So I think that's important. This device actually has 3 microphones. One samples ambient noise, and the 2 of them get input from different environments. So if you're taking video, there's a mic facing outwards which will capture the input. While if you're making a phone call, there's a mic here. There's a noise canceling mic as well. So 3 mics, which I think will help us a lot in improving our call quality. From a business perspective, as John mentioned, we think that the fastest growing segment right now in mobile user base are people who actually love all the consumer capabilities, multimedia capabilities, web browsing capabilities that we bring, but they also want access to their enterprise email. And that segment is really important for us, and we have the full Exchange support, Gmail enterprise support, push delivery of email, and corporate calendar and corporate directory, all of that integrated. Remote ability to wipe the device clean, the security that CIOs want, ability to have complex passwords, all of these things that makes it much more meaningful for our CIOs. And we are environmentally extremely conscious. So this is a PVC-free handset, bromine-free printed circuit boards, mercury-free LCD, arsenic-free glass. Packaging contains 65% recyclable material. I think we have met and exceeded every single environmentally friendly, environmentally conscious standards in the business. So I think if you look at this device, we have taken our game to the next level. Energy efficiency, we have 1570 milliamp hour battery, much higher battery than anybody else, in 9.9 millimeter thickness form factor, and 8 megapixel camera, and all the multimedia features I talked about. So if you think about it, I think this is a package which is really quite attractive, and we hope hope our technology here can take us to the next level.
So, Android and what we've done in partnership here. This is a hits business. What Sanjay described, the technology, everything that went into building the technology, everybody up here on stage that contributed to it, even the members of the Open Handset Alliance, includes semiconductor companies, software that goes on the device through the open source release. Everybody came together to create this hit product. Especially after seeing that video and that rocking soundtrack, I don't know which one of us is the lead guitar and the vocalist up here, but there is definitely a band forming today. And the result is some pretty cool technology. In May, when Google had its Developer I/O, which is our conference for third-party developers for the platform, we announced that there's 100,000 Google-enabled Android devices sold every day. Today, just a short time later, that number is now 160,000 Android-enabled devices a day. There are 65,000 third-party developed applications in the Android marketplace. So the commitment from the ecosystem, the commitment from the industry is to make these products better, and we're actually seeing it happen. One of the other interesting effects that we're seeing is new services, new types of services. Eric mentioned all the computing power that's happening in the cloud. And we're developing new ways to harness that computing power, allowing third-party developers, creating APIs to third-party developers that don't run and exist on the device, but exist in the cloud. So those APIs can be connected to from a third-party service and then pushed to devices. We demonstrated Google I/O, the cloud device messaging, which enables just that. If you're a third-party developer that has built an app for Android, you can also connect your app through the cloud. So that actually makes the connection between services and applications on the devices, which is a huge new opportunity. That's enabled in the release we call Froyo. As you know, our engineers decided that it would be fun to name our releases after desserts. We had cupcake, donut, eclair, Froyo, and Froyo is our version 2.2 of the software. That is being open sourced today. So it's now available at source.android.com, and everybody can download it, start hacking on it, and making it even better. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the third-party applications that are built on top of it.
Sure, indeed. Thanks, Sanjay and John, for having me here today. We had earnings actually yesterday, and I have to be in Europe later this evening. And so one of the things I asked John and Sanjay was whether this phone would also beam me up to New York. But I think that's one of the features of the next release. But it's really great to be here, and it's a gorgeous device. And from my point of view, and I know a number of folks have talked about it, it's really all about getting power off the web on mobile. The reality is that people want unfettered access to the content and applications that they like, but they want it wherever they want. And it really requires an ecosystem of partners to come together to make that available for consumers, from the network so that we can have access to the video, to an operating system that allows developers and creators to express their creativity, and to gorgeous hardware, frankly, that people want to lust after. And where Adobe comes in is really about enabling all of that content that's out there on the web to be able to be displayed on these devices with the power and creativity that people want. Some of you may have heard we've been a little bit in the news with respect to what's happening with Flash. But the reality is Flash continues to be the world's most pervasive software. When you think about the number of developers that we have 3.5 million developers, and now we're able to bring their creativity and their expressiveness to this partnership. We have 70% of the world's games that are casual games on the web, including Farmville from Zynga, now available using Flash. 75% of the video on the web for all the sporting events that we talked about is available in Flash. But perhaps what may not be as evident to folks is even in the enterprise, all of the next generation enterprise applications are being rebuilt in order to take advantage of engaging experiences. And that's what's exciting about having this device not just be available for consumers, but also, frankly, for enterprises. And it really is all about whether it's e-learning and what NASA wants to do to be able to use this content to educate people, whether it's PBS Kids and having access to that content, whether it's Google Finance and what you've done with Flash to take advantage of rich internet applications. That's the role that Adobe plays. We want to bring the power of content to this particular platform, and we're incredibly excited about it. We had to do our own bit of innovation, frankly. We had to completely rewrite Flash Player 10.1. It's the first version that combines the power of everything you can do on your desktop with mobile devices. We had to take advantage of all the hardware capabilities that were present in this device. And we've announced that it's shipping as of yesterday. And it's really about now seeing what developers and creators can do with respect to getting all of this content and applications that customers want on mobile devices, unfettered access to content. Terribly excited to be here. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so that's a pretty snappy rundown of the hardware and software and applications that you'll see here in EVDO 3G network. We are also, with the introduction of the mobile hotspot capability, you may recall Sanjay describing that capability. We're going to provide customers who use this, whether they use it for tethering their PC or enabling their internet-enabled gaming device, however they want to use it, an extra 2 gigabytes of data allowance for $20 more a month. And then lastly, upgrade policy. That's always an exciting data point in any press conference. But the point here is that for Verizon customers, any customer who has a contract that comes up anytime in 2010, we're going to enable to take them. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, a desktop client. Anything you want to say?
Sure. So I'm not sure if I understand your question. A desktop client that runs Google services, or
I think the question is all the content from iTunes and other places that people have on desktops. How can you aggregate that and deliver that? I think Jeff is here. We will deliver a client with this device, which will enable you to do that.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Please.
I don't need a mic. When you say that people can get an extra 2 gigabytes for $20 a month, that is over what? The existing 5 gigabytes, and is the 5 number staying stable?
Yeah, no, it's Thank you, but I should clarify. So for $29.99 a month, the customer for their standard smartphone data usage will get an unlimited sort of access to our EVDO network. And then if they want to use the mobile hotspot capability to hook up other devices, like their laptop or their, as I said, their mobile gaming device, their camera, whatever it might be, via the Wi-Fi connection that's created by the mobile hotspot, they can do so. That's $20 for 2 gigabytes. Other questions in the back of the room, please?
Javi, good work, Trend Analysis.
Javi, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Question about the software that's running on this device. So this is Android 2.2. Is there Moto Blur on this device as well or not?
The device ships with 2.1, and there will be Moto Blur on this device, but the startup and the setup of this device, we've had a lot of feedback on the setup, and we have modified it so that it's dramatically different, and it's somewhat hidden from the consumer, but you have all the capabilities that Moto Blur delivers.
If anyone has any questions in the room, please come up
to
the mics.
Tell me something about battery and battery life.
This is a 1570 milliamp hour battery. The battery is actually bigger than the original Droid. The original Droid had 1400 milliamp hour battery. And we think that the battery life of this will be comparable to the battery life that we saw in Droid 1, which at that time certainly was much better than some competitive products. So even with a much bigger display, remember, about 60% of all the power consumption now is in display. Even with a much bigger display, 3.7 versus 4.3, we expect to deliver about the same performance. I would say also that we will have another battery pack, which will be 1930 milliamp hour battery pack. In a couple of months, we will deliver that battery pack, and for 1 millimeter increase in thickness, you get meaningfully better battery life.
Yeah, I should say I've been using this device now for quite some time, and for me, the test is always going to get through the day if I'm hammering the heck out of the device, and I've had great success with that. And I think Sanjay's comparison to Droid 1 is exactly right. Similar experience that we've seen. Yes, sir.
July 15th will be available through some additional outlets, Best Buy, Walmart, etc., other indirect channels.
By the way, that's a very expensive mic stand. Yes, it will. Other questions? Yes.
You said the Wi-Fi hotspot is $20 a month for 2 gigabytes.
That's right.
What's the overage charge of that?
Boy, if you don't mind, I'm going to come back to you on that. I don't want to give you the wrong information.
And related question is, how unlimited is the unlimited data?
You start using it on the first day of the month and keep using it until the last day.
Kyle Saylor with the Droid Guy. Is there any stipulation to any person that purchased a phone in 2010 can upgrade to this device, or do they automatically get it at the $199 after a $100 rebate?
You're the Droid Guy. It's you. All right, good. I've been wanting to see this guy. That's the Droid Guy. So your question was about the upgrade policy. So if a customer on Verizon has a contract that comes due or an upgrade available to them this year, so if their contract comes due even if it's the last day of December, we're going to allow them to upgrade immediately on the shipment of the product. So for us it's a shift in our typical upgrade policy, but again the thought is that if we think it's a pretty special device, we want to give our customers a chance to try it. We are here, yes.
And there was a report this morning that Android developers have been paying around $21 million. Compared to Apple, $1 billion. I'm just curious, does that number sound about right to you? Does that sound like it's a neighborhood, or?
We haven't released any numbers, so I haven't read the article and I haven't seen how they're driving those numbers. And I actually don't know what the numbers are. We wouldn't disclose something like that. This is something that, it's a marketplace. Our job here is to connect buyer and seller, and I think we're doing a pretty good job.
And you said 160,000 a day, right?
That's correct.
And, sorry to steal this, but what do you attribute that to? Is it just people like the phone? Is it growing internationally, or how's that happening?
I think there's a lot of phones based on Android, and that's part of the, part of the charm of Android is it's everybody's operating system, so anybody who wants to adopt it can. And when you go wide like that, cross-manufacturer, cross CPU technology at Google Developer I/O, we talked about Google TV, which is based on Android, that runs on an Intel processor. These phones run on ARM processors. Having the technology to enable you to go wide with an open source business model just creates this kind of viral adoption.
Yes, sir.
Since the the motor blur, or the former motor blur, is put on top of the stock Android 2.1. Will there be a delay like there is with the HTC Sense UI with getting Froyo updated on that, or is there already in the works to put that motor blur 2.2 on top of the Android 2.2?
As John mentioned, we will upgrade this to Froyo towards the late summer. So I think we've been diligent about that.
So put it in a different way, I just announced in my little talk that we're open sourcing Froyo today. So that's like when the green light says go, and then everybody takes it, they start doing their stuff and making sure that it passes, certifications and qualifications and everything else. So that happens today.
Just now, 2 o'clock. Yes.
When will the device be available worldwide?
This is a device which is only for Verizon in the United States. We may have a device which looks similar outside of the US at some point, but this right here is a device for Verizon.
Okay, time for maybe one more question. Yeah.
Will there also be an option to connect to the internet via tethering in addition to mobile Wi-Fi?
Yes, can answer your question. Okay, I think we're good. Brenda? Pardon me? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. Excuse me, I got to see with Brenda. And it would be 5 cents per megabyte overage for whoever has to. Get all the megabytes you can stand, 5 cents. Okay, we'd like to thank you all for coming today. Look forward to our launch in just a few short weeks. Again, thanks for everything. Talk to you soon.